Then how would someone know that they've got some healing to do when it comes to stuff that's happened in their soul and maybe before they came to this body? Like, how would I know that that's something that I'm looking for so that maybe they can start to think, hey, maybe I do need to really look into this?
Well, first of all, people won't know
They
that they
won't
need
know.
anything like
Okay.
this. No, people won't know because when we come here, we experience what I call selective amnesia, meaning that we
Mm.
have glimpses of our life. We have glimpses of experiences and lessons that we have to have, which is also called deja vu. But
Deja
it's in
vu.
these moments, yeah. And so it is in these moments that we begin to glimpse the lesson. And when we are here physically in 3D space, in this reality, with the experiences, the traumas, when we have that residue, that buildup, we then begin to question our lives and our choices. It is at that point we begin to seek the assistance to clear out what we need to clear out because the energy from past life, depending on what experiences were had, they do tend to spill over into present. One, for example, for me personally, I have a fear of heights. I don't like swimming, and I know that is from previous life energy. And
Mm.
so through having to relive certain experiences in this life, I have helped myself to overcome those sad fears of trauma.
Welcome to the Queer Quest podcast, your beacon of light and sprinkle of glitter in the queer community. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for queer individuals. And together, we are embarking on a journey of transformation. Each week, we bring you a new training topic or connecting with visionary queer leaders in healing and coaching, diving deep into conversations that inspire growth, celebrate diversity, and empower you to live authentically. So wherever you are, settle in and let's get ready to unlock the vibrant potential within. This is where your quest begins. Hello, all you fabulous souls, and welcome to another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. I'm your host, Cristiano Green, the CEO and founder of Queer Quest and a transformation coach for people in the queer community. Now, this week on the podcast, we have another special guest in the house. We have Hillis Pugh, who is a soul mentor and energy facilitator. Welcome to the Queer Quest podcast, Hillis.
Hello, Cristiano. Thank you so much for having me on your show today. It's such an honor to connect with people in our community who do what we do because it's amazing, right?
Totally. This is why I love this kind of forum and having this podcast is because I get to have these kinds of conversations that we just don't always get to have in our day-to-day lives. So yeah, I'm excited to get in and chat to you. And I think the first question that I'd love to ask, which is I think what people might have just been curious going, what is a soul mentor and an energy facilitator? I'm sure people have asked you that before.
Yeah, it's a very frequent question. And the best way I describe that is the work that I do is on a soul level, meaning that I connect with my clients one on one on a soul level because you have to understand that all the things that we do, all the things that we're connected to, is in our soul because there's a tether to our soul, to that energy. Because on planet Earth in the 3D space, we are about 30% of our energy is here 30 to 40, 50, depending on what it is we're doing, all the work that we're doing and the rest is in the ethers. So that's all our imprinted energy, everything we're connected to our family, to our genes, to our DNA, all of it. And so working with the soul, you begin there to clear out all the traumas, all the pains, all the guilt, anything that we have been connected to is in ourselves, which is inertly connected to our soul. And with that, once we work with the soul, with one's permissions, of course, we then can clear out that old energy and make way for the new energy and to help retrofit or redesign or even go back to the original divine blueprint that is us. And so that's why I work with people on the soul level because it's so important to understand who we are at that space, who we are in that energy, because we came here to be embody that energy in its totality in physical form, because in energy we have all the tools and knowledge we have, but here we're learning how to bring that into this space.
I love that. So let me just try to restate that just so I get it clear as well. So that, because I'm sure some people might be thinking that as well. So basically, us as humans, we're built up of the physical matter that we are and energy. And a lot of that energy comes from our soul and our soul's journey. And so what
Correct.
you do is you work on the soul level to maybe clear some stuff that's happened previously to us being here on this, earth in this form, to help people in this lifetime be able to kind of live in a way that is resonant to their souls. Is that kind of what you do?
Oh yeah, definitely. That is exactly what I do. I help them clear out past and present traumas, because we accumulate so much on our journey that we don't know what is originally us and what is our experience. And so once we learn to separate ourselves from the experience, from the lessons, we then can really begin to understand who we are at the soul level, our energy, and how that energy is connected to creative consciousness.
I see. I see. So then how would someone know that they've got some healing to do when it comes to stuff that's happened in their soul and maybe before they came to this body? Like, how would I know that that's something that I'm looking for so that maybe they can start to think, hey, maybe I do need to really look into this?
Well, first of all, people won't know
They
that they
won't
need
know.
anything like
Okay.
this. No, people won't know, because when we come here, we experience what I call selective amnesia, meaning that we
Mm.
have glimpses of our life. We have glimpses of experiences and lessons that we have to have, which is also called deja vu. But
Deja
it's in
vu.
these yeah. And so it is in these moments that we begin to glimpse the lesson. And when we are here physically in 3D space, in this reality, with the experiences, the traumas, when we have that residue, that buildup, we then begin to question our lives and our choices. It is at that point we begin to seek the assistance to clear out what we need to clear out, because the energy from past life, depending on what experiences were had, they do tend to spill over into present. One, for example, for me personally, I have a fear of heights. I don't like swimming, and I know that is from previous life energy. And
Mm.
so through having to relive certain experiences in this life, I have helped myself to overcome those sad fears or traumas. So it's just the little things that we may not pay attention to, or little things that may go unexplained of fears and why we have them. So it's just really understanding the little nuances in our current present life existence.
Okay, and so I'm assuming as well that some people who might have, say, long-term physical problems within their body, this also can be accumulated from issues that might have happened in a past life. And so a lot of that stuff is kind of maybe trapped or stored up trauma and energy that's in their field, and that can then, like I said, maybe manifest itself into, say, a physical ailment in this kind of 3D world.
Correct. That is exactly right. Because I've actually had a client who had issues walking, and she
Mm.
wasn't sure why she had issues walking. And with me working with her, we uncovered issues from her childhood that was linked actually to a past life event that assisted in her ailment. And when we worked on that energy, it helped to let go, to for her to be free of that uh, thought, that energy, that fear. And just to witness the transformation in the months that I spent working with her just brought me so much joy and contentment, knowing that she trusted in me enough to do this, and she believed in herself enough to do it as well. So that is why I do what I do.
It's powerful, and I love to hear those kinds of stories because I've seen it happen as well through, many different things, over the years of what I've done. But it's interesting to see that you, as a light worker, you come at it from that kind of a perspective. How did you get into becoming like a light worker, an energy facilitator? Because I know that, from what you've shared with me previously, there's only one or two of people out there in the world that kind of do exactly what you do. So you want to share a bit about how you help people in that way as a light worker as well?
Yeah, definitely. So my path was not the typical path. I don't think honestly there's any typical direct path to the people that we do, my peers. And so my path began as a poet, as a writer, sharing what I do.
Okay.
And the main message, the reason why I started writing holds true in the work that I do today. And that message is to let everyone know that they are not alone on their journey, whether it be through words, whether it be healing, whether it be through conversation, that we are not alone in our journey. And with the poetry, it involved into understanding gratitude. That evolved into me understanding the law of vibration. That in turn allowed me to tap back into my psychic abilities. And that in turn helped me to learn Reiki, which in turn led me to being one of two Syrian Lemurian light workers on the planet, the one that teaches this specific modality. Now understand that other light Lemurian practitioners on the planet, but they don't have the knowledge that I have direct from planet Sirius, from Lemuria, by way of my teacher granting me the permission to have this and be able to teach us.
Wow. So it sounds like it's been quite a journey for you. Now, I'd
Oh
love,
yeah, like
yeah,
20 years.
20 years. And I know, and again, I know we've spoken offline because of course that's how we connected to be on this call today. But I know that you've struggled as well. You're obviously part of the queer community, and I know that being some of those struggles led you on this path. So if you don't mind sharing, I'd love for you to share to the audience who probably want to know. Tell us about your upbringing as a young queer person. Of course, because I know it's tied to where you're at today as well, right? It
Yeah.
always is.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's a very potent and powerful presence in my life because as a kid, growing up, you're always trying to find a way to fit in. You're always trying to, fit somewhere.
Yeah.
And being a young black kid, African American kid, being raised by three women, I call them the Trinity,
Yeah.
because they're so dear to me. My grandmother, who was the iron fist of my family, my aunt and my mom, and it's 9 years ago that my mom and my aunt has passed. It's been almost, wow, it's been close to maybe almost 20 years,
I think
almost
you
for my
told me 20
grandmother.
years when I last spoke to you about when your grandma.
Yeah, I mean, and when I think about it, just to put that in perspective, it was really, really interesting because you don't think about time in that way. You don't think about it in that sense. But growing up, I mean, I came out when I was 16, and it was an interesting time because I knew that I liked girls. I dated girls, everything that I thought I should be doing, but it didn't feel right for me, like in
Yeah.
my personality. And so as I allowed myself to get to know myself, because that's what our adolescents are, it's that space of self-discovery for us to find out who we are. And being, not accepting of my grandmother. My grandmother didn't like that I was gay at all. She was like, "How dare you? Why are you this way?" And she kind of like shut me off. But we all lived in the same house, and so she couldn't ignore me. And so when I decided to move out the house when I was 20 years old, my mom asked me, it's like, "Are you moving out because you're gay?" I'm like, "Mom, no, I'm not moving out because I'm gay. I'm moving out because I need life experience." And,
Mhm.
it's always the misunderstanding and the misconceptions of why we do things in the queer community. People always have this idea of, well, the main reason why we do anything is because of our sexuality. It's for us to identify with something, for us to connect with. The main reason why we do anything is like anyone else, because we're human like anyone else, is to find out who we are. And I think that's the biggest message here. You know, whether who's watching this or not, whether you're gay, straight, whatever, it doesn't matter who you are watching. Just understand who you are as an individual, who you are at a soul level. You know, my experience here in this life doesn't constitute who I am on a soul level. It's a part of it. Yeah, sure. It's in my DNA. You know, because I came here to have this experience because last life I was a 6 foot tall white man. The life before that I could have been a woman. You know, another
Yeah.
life I could have been. So it's like really understanding the tapestry of what it is to be human. And
Mm.
that's the overall goal, is to then understand on the soul level that I live these lives, I understand these experiences, and maybe right now I enjoy the form of being a gay man. So what?
Exactly. So what? Mm. Okay.
You know,
Go ahead.
no, so I was just gonna say it doesn't really matter, you know, the journey is, you know, how later on in life, how my mom and my aunt began to accept me. And I remember the one of the most amazing times we had together. This was when we got to get really close, really get to I was an individual. We went out. My mom and my aunt asked me what was the one thing I wanted to do for my birthday. I think I was turning 30.
Oh, wow.
And Frankie Knuckles was a big part of my life in that time. You know, house music, just going out being free. And every year, Frankie would come to Chicago twice a year. He would come for Black Pride and he would come for Thanksgiving. This year, he was in town for Black Pride, and I asked him, I said, "You want to go out dancing with him?" And they looked at me and say, "You want to go dancing with him?" I'm like, yeah, let's go out dancing. So my mom and my aunt went out dancing with me to a Frankie Knuckles party. It was like the best thing ever because they got to see me in my purest joy, my purest happiness when I'm free dancing, listening to house music. And it was just one of the most magical experiences of my life.
It sounds like it because it's great for the people that really, know us the most, love us the most, are our family, to see us as we truly are in our most, purest expression in this world. So fantastic to hear and see that that's the way it's been able to be for you. Are you ready to embark on a journey of transformation that's uniquely yours? Welcome to QueerQuest, the world's first and best personal development platform created by and for the queer community. Imagine a space where your authenticity isn't just accepted, it's celebrated. A place where you can grow, learn, and thrive alongside a vibrant community that understands you. At QueerQuest, we're more than just a platform. We're a family. Connect with like-minded individuals, share your stories, and empower each other to reach new heights. Our tailored courses are designed to address the unique experiences of the queer community, from self-love and confidence building to career advancement and beyond. We've got you covered. It's time to step into your power and transform your journey. Join us today at courses.queerquest.vip, see what we're all about, and sign up to begin your quest. And I'm sure that's probably shaped your journey because it sounds like a deep memory for you.
Yeah, it's funny because actually someone asked me today, what is one of your happiest memories? And that was not my happiest memory, but it's right up there, even though it really should be now that I reflect on it, because the happiest memory that I have is when I was 10 years old. It was Christmas Eve. There was no Christmas in the house. We all went to Christmas Mass, come back home with my neighbor, my aunt, and my grandma, my cousin, and there was Christmas in the house because of my mom. So my mom made Christmas happen somehow, some way. So it's like all these things that you really don't tend to think about that create the tapestry that is your life. And we often talk about these little moments that shape us who we are. And it's always little moments. It's never the big ones. It's never the grand gestures that we think. Always the smaller, more refined moments that bring us the most joy and satisfaction. Like my grandmother, would always fix my cousin and I fried bologna sandwiches when we would come home from school. It's like all these little moments.
Mm. It's all the little moments that add up to make us who we are, right? Because a lot of times we are kind of our memories and our things that we think about and all that stuff together with the core stuff that's within us. But it is those things that hold us, that kind of shape our values and morals and things in our life here, right?
Exactly. And I feel that's what we have to get back to as a culture, as humanity, that we have to get back to these smaller things, these smaller moments, because it's always in these moments of us trying to find ourselves that we have the most rebellion, that we rebel so much against any and everything because we're not being heard. And it's not so much that we're not being heard, it's also that so much that we're not being listened to or we're being ignored and we do everything we can to make our voices heard. But when we are not in that energy of alignment, that's why we have to shout out and scream and become angry so we can be. But when we allow ourselves to step into the energy of love and self love and caring and nurturing, that's when people take pause to listen to who we are. It doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter, your sexuality, doesn't matter what you identify with. When we step into the energy of love, the highest vibration, the most purest form of frequency, people begin to take notice. People begin to, step into our energy and our frequency and see what we're doing. And yeah, sometimes it may take that initial action of being angry and being upset to be heard. But then how does it evolve from there? Does it evolve into love or does it devolve back into hate?
Mm, that's a good question.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it can go both ways, right? Because life happens, and sometimes life will throw something at you, and you on this in this world can choose to take it one way or another, and we all have the
exactly.
choice to do that. And sometimes, like I said, from those experiences, it does push us off course for whatever
Yeah,
reason. Sometimes it's for a deeper lesson, but sometimes we need to really, learn something a hard way to move forward. Even though sometimes, we could take the easier route and get to the same result, but sometimes that's just not what our soul is, shaping us to do, or we sometimes take over because we don't listen to all of those, signs or advice that's coming at our way, and we think that we know best, and often that's usually the ego talking, and sometimes it's at play to kind of, pull us
yeah,
in different directions, right?
exactly. I mean, it can go south really quick or it can go north really fast. So it sort of depends on the frequency you choose to operate. And that's part of what I learned in the work that I do. Because in order for me to be of service, I have to operate in the frequency of love. That's the only way I can work with other people. Granted, the people that I work with may not start off in that frequency, but we end up there together. They meet me in that space because I assist them in providing that safe space for them to be vulnerable, for them to see what I see, for them to know themselves the way that they allow them to know themselves and strip away all the hate, all the fear, all the shame, all the guilt, whatever it is that they have to strip away from the stories of the lies that they told themselves. I mean, we all tell stories to ourselves. We all tell lies to ourselves to some degree, so that way we can step into the place of self-acceptance. But are we being honest with ourselves if we are really telling us ourselves a different story? Are we making up something or are we making up a story so that way it makes us feel better to get to the next stage? Or are we telling us a story just to satisfy or satiate a certain desire or a certain energetic space? It's like, well, this would do for now. So you just really have to understand the space in which we approach the way we live our life.
Oh, 100%. And this is why it's important for us to kind of take a step back sometimes, and instead of like, because we can be so caught up in the emotion of what's happening in a situation that we don't actually take the step back to really kind of see what's actually going on. And when we're in the
Yeah.
emotion, that's when we can start telling ourselves the lies, because we get into the emotion of anger and we tell all these lies that this person did this for that reason and blah, blah, blah. And then we build up and we make that story there. And then we keep retelling ourselves that story and we stay in the energy of anger. And that's when probably it builds up into more of a trauma, which stores in our body, our energy field, and our soul. And that's when someone like you needs to come in and help people release this kind of stuff. And again, of course, there'll be reasons probably from past lives why we're telling ourselves those stories as well. And it's just a new situation that's kind of continuing to reinforce stuff. So it's about helping you change the energy, but also helping people change their beliefs. Because when we change the belief, we can also change our energy as well, right?
Oh, most definitely, because it's all about the stories we tell. I even have a meditation that I created several years ago based on that in itself. Where we revisit certain moments in our lives to tell the story with a different outcome. Even though we can't change the physical space, we may not be able to change the active memory, but we can change the energy of it. And when we change the energy of it, we change our belief system and our habits. We begin to solidify things in a more of a 3D space, and allowing ourselves to anchor things.
Ah, okay. That's definitely something that a lot of people probably need to learn how to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it's simple. I mean, you can do simple things just as journaling or writing down an affirmation, something to tell a new story. Because when we sit in the old story, and it's okay to sit in that old story to understand the energy of it, to understand why it happened.
Yeah.
But when you sit in it for too long, that becomes your identity. And so when your identity is threatened, you then strike out and live in this space of fear or hate, because that's something that you identify with when someone tries to take that away from you or judge you for that. So people who are watching, ask yourself, are you living in the space of your identity? Or are you living in the space that resonates with your soul?
Powerful question. I would love for you to
Yeah.
repeat that. Are you living in, say, let's say it back there for people, because I think they need to hear that again.
Are you living in your identity, or are you living in the space from yourself?
Mm, because the identity is again just a story that we're telling ourselves, right? And the soul
Exactly.
is literally all of who we are and more, so
Yes.
it's us
Yes.
at our absolute most divine. So us being able to get away from the story, get away from the
Yeah.
identity, move into the soul is
Yeah.
a powerful thing for people. And that would just make massive transformations on the soul level, but also in this human level as well, I can imagine, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because when take a person who has trauma, and I'm just going to say a person who's been sexually abused, because I've worked with a lot of people who have been sexually abused. Because that is some of the most, I can't even. It's just one of the most traumatic experiences, being violated in such a way, and sometimes not even knowing, and sometimes even becoming a knowing or willing victim in this, right?
Mhm.
But when you are in that space of victimhood and you live in that space, and that slowly becomes your identity of, this is part of who I am, this is part of my tapestry, this is part of who I am now choosing to be because of this experience, because we inadvertently choose our identity based on the experiences that we've had. And when that identity is threatened, we lash out at people because you are saying, this is who I am. Well, no, this is who I choose to be. Or no, this is the reason why I am because of this experience. Well, why are you living that way because of that experience? Because you haven't been taught better, you haven't been but no one was there to step on your path to give you something else. And so, and even what's even coming to my mind right now, people, because I know it in our community, it's a little bit different, especially people who are trans. And I know people who are trans to where they end up doing, sexual work, and I know that's very challenging because it's, you know, they do it because they may not have a choice. And I know some people who, and I'm not saying this for the whole community, just for people who may have had that sense of, well, this is the best I can do right now because of what I need to get. And that's perfectly fine. But as long as you don't make it part of your tapestry, because that hardens the soul when we allow ourselves to do things that we may not have no choice in doing, even though we want better, we desire better, but the path to better is not necessarily seen or don't know how to get there. And so for people who are having an issue with getting to that path or wanting, to have better, to be better, to choose better, it is sometimes taking the hard look at self and saying, why did I choose this? Why
Why
is
did
this
you?
experience here for me? And, you know, the trans community is some of the most powerful people on the planet, simply because of these two words that my shaman gifted to me in a plant medicine ceremony. And not everyone gets these, not everyone hears these two words. It's two spirit. And the person who is, and you know what this is, the person who is two spirit is one that embodies both male and female energy. And it's not seen in the community completely. But for people who are trans, they truly are that because I've read stories about how gods, back in Africa, the gods and spirits became this. But when you have this actually happening in the physical space, so yeah, you are that in which you choose to honor that. You honor the choice that you are making to make the hard choice that's not readily accepted. And so when you have a choice that's not accepted, just like being black and gay, come on. I mean, that's like one of the taboos in the community. So when you have, these choices, you're faced with these choices, you do what you can, but allow yourself to find something that makes you fall in love with yourself. Find something that allows you to be whole with yourself, to have peace. And yeah, it's not always easy. I attest to that. But when
I
you
agree. Not always easy.
no, but when you find something that makes your heart sing, follow that.
Mm. Powerful words. And I think that's a place where I think people can take away that there. If they take nothing else from today, I'm sure there's going to be bucket loads they can take. But if all they took was following your heart, that's going to help people in their journey in this realm, but also on their soul's journey, right? Because literally, I'm sure the heart is kind of like the compass of the soul. And if you're following your heart, really truly following your heart, you're following what your soul is guiding you to do as well, right?
Yeah, because the heart is the magnetic field of the body. It is that unseen tether to who we are, to Heavenly Father, to Earthly Mother, to Creator Consciousness, to whatever name you choose to give this omnipotent being that has replicated itself in many, 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 many ways to experience itself.
Mm.
So we have these experiences with self because that's what it is. But even having this discussion with you, another expression of experience myself with you from through creative consciousness. And so every aspect, every experience is a reflection of that space. And this is what we've forgotten as humanity, not just as a culture, but as humanity. that we've forgotten how to live in the space of honoring the reflection that people see in one another and honoring that space and just living in that space. And granted, without the contrast, without, the lower vibrating energies, without fear that couldn't be love, and without hate that couldn't be joy, I get all of it. We wouldn't have been able to evolve. And this is why, having appreciation and gratitude is important, because without the opposite, we couldn't enjoy the other that we desire.
Totally.
And yeah, and that's why I teach that in all I do is having that appreciation for the context.
Mm. Powerful, powerful stuff. So, Hillis, you've just been nailing it all day. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom, your journey, your experience with the Queer Quest audience. If someone's out there, loving everything that you say, wanting to connect with you more, how can people connect with you? What's coming up for Hillis and that people can connect with?
Well, right now I am scheduled to do a live summit on November 14th called the Miracle Summit. That's coming up soon. I'm also doing a live summit on Halloween Day, one of our favorite days. I will be having details about that next week. And so people can go to my website, which is, well, my all of my links, which is applink.cc/ my name, Hillis Pugh. Find out all the details about any upcoming events or anything like that, and find out how to work.
Beautiful. And I'll link that below so that people can easily connect with your website as well as to find all the information as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Cristano. It's such a pleasure to connect with you and to everyone who's watching.
Again, such a pleasure to have you on here, sharing your experience, sharing your journey, sharing the love that you have for what you do and the people around the world, and helping them to continue on their soul journey. So, been an honor having you here as a guest on the Queer Quest podcast. Again, if you want to connect with Hillis, you know how to do so. And we'll be back here next week with another episode of the Queer Quest podcast. Until then, always remember that you've got this and I've got you. Bye for now.